let's start with that quote. It's from one of the greatest mathematicians ever, Henry Poincaré. And he's not talking about some fringe philosophy. He's talking about a mathematical function, something that's supposed to be pure logic and reason. So how could a simple function be an outrage on common sense? Well, stick around because that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
To really get what Poincaré was so worked up about, we kind of have to travel back in time. See, for most of human history, mathematics felt like this cozy blanket of certainty. It was solid, dependable, and most importantly, it was intuitive. It just made sense. It was the language we used to build everything, from the pyramids right up to the laws of physics.
For literally thousands of years, we were just stacking these logical bricks one on top of the other. The Egyptians were using key mathematical ideas to get the pyramids just right. The Greeks gave us the beautiful certainties of geometry. Al-Khwarizmi laid down the rules of algebra. And then, bam, Newton and Leibniz hand us calculus. This incredible tool that felt like we'd finally been given the operating system for the entire universe. It all just worked.
But there was a tiny little crack in this perfect foundation. Early calculus was powered by this weird idea called infinitesimals. These were supposed to be infinitely small numbers that were not quite zero. I mean, think about that. An amount so tiny it's basically zero, but you could still divide by it? It gave the right answers, which was great, but it was a complete paradox that drove logicians nuts. It was kind of a mathematical ghost in the machine.
And yeah, that little crack, it was a sign, a warning. Because in the 19th century, mathematicians started getting suspicious. They began pulling at the threads of their most basic assumptions, things everyone just took for granted. They stopped trusting their gut feelings and started demanding cold, hard proof for everything. And when they did that, they found things their common sense screamed were impossible. They found monsters. All right, try this little thought experiment with me. Picture a line that's continuous, which just means you can draw it without ever lifting your pen from the paper. Got it? Okay. Now, imagine that at every single point on that line, it's a sharp, jagged corner. Not a single smooth curve or straight bit anywhere. Just an infinite number of corners, one after another. Your brain is probably saying, no way, right? It sounds completely bonkers. Well, prepare to have your mind blown. Take a look at this. This is the Weierstrass function, and it's exactly that impossible thing we just talked about. It's a line that's continuous everywhere, but differentiable nowhere. No smooth points. And here's the truly wild part. Carl Weierstrass built this infinitely jagged monster by adding together an infinite number of perfectly smooth, simple cosine waves. It's like mixing a million pillows and getting a pile of nails. It just breaks your intuition. And believe me, this wasn't just some one-off fluke. Check out another one, the Blancmestre function. It's almost like a recipe. You start with a simple triangle wave. Then you add another one on top that's smaller and faster. And you just keep doing that over and over and over an infinite number of times. And what you end up with is this bizarre, bumpy curve that has the exact same monstrous property. It's all corners everywhere. So blancmange, what's up with that name? It's actually named after a dessert. A wobbly, flan-like pudding that's popular in Europe. The mathematician David Tall just thought the function's lumpy, shaky shape kind of looked like the pudding. It's a pretty sweet name for such a brain-breaking idea, huh? Okay, so here's the real kicker. These functions weren't just clever party tricks. They were a bombshell. They proved without a shadow of a doubt that the common sense that had guided mathematics for thousands of years was fundamentally flawed. It could lead you down the wrong path. You couldn't just look at something and assume it was smooth anymore. You had to prove it. The very foundations of math were shaking. So when the foundation of your entire world cracks, what do? You can try to patch it up, or you can tear the whole thing down and rebuild it on solid rock. Well, mathematicians chose to rebuild. This was the beginning of the great quest for rigor, an attempt to reconstruct the entire building of mathematics, not on the shifting sands of intuition, but on the unshakable bedrock of pure formal logic. This new approach was called rigorous analysis. The goal was to leave absolutely nothing to chance. Every single concept, what a limit is, what continuity means, heck, even what a number truly is, all of it was redefined with airtight logical precision. No more ambiguity. No more, it just feels right. The process was methodical. Step 1, question everything. Every assumption that had been taken for granted was put under the microscope. Step 2, get rid of the fuzzy ideas, like those infinitesimals, and replace them with brutally precise definitions. And step 3, build everything up,
proof by proof, from a tiny set of foundational truths called axioms. By the way, this exact way of thinking, of building complex truths from simple, provable steps, would one day become the bedrock of computer science. So, by the time the calendar flipped to 1900, this new, rigorous mathematics was firmly in place. It was stronger, more reliable. And the great German mathematician David Hilbert saw this not as the end, but as a brand new beginning. He saw a new age of exploration on the horizon, and he decided it was time to draw a map for the century to come. So there he is, at the International Congress of Mathematicians in Paris. He stands up in front of all his peers and lays down a grand challenge. He presents a list of 23 unsolved problems, 23 huge questions that he believed would define the most important mathematical research for the entire 20th century. And these weren't small questions, believe me. He asked about the very nature of infinity itself. He posed deep questions about geometry and prime numbers, like the famous Riemann hypothesis, which is so hard we still haven't solved it. He even asked a question that basically anticipated the absolute limits of computers decades before they even existed.
So, did this map lead us to the promised land? Did we solve all 23 problems and declare math finished? Not even close. The quest to solve Hilbert's problems actually created entire new fields of mathematics. And it revealed that the mathematical universe was far bigger, deeper, and just plain stranger than even Hilbert himself could have imagined.
So after more than a century of work by the world's best minds, here's where we stand. We've solved a good chunk of them, but many remain completely open. And what's really fascinating is that a large portion of them turned out to be complex in ways no one expected. Some were even proven to be unsolvable. Just think about that. The discovery that some questions can't be answered is a profound discovery in itself. So what's the most important takeaway from this whole story? It's that the crisis started by those monster functions and the quest for rigor that followed, they ultimately revealed the true nature of mathematics. It's not some static book of ancient facts you have to memorize. It's a living, breathing, endless story of discovery, fueled by one simple thing: always asking the next harder question. The monsters of the 19th century forced us to build new logical tools. Hilbert then used those tools to draw a map for the 20th century, which leaves us with a final question to think about. What are the great mathematical challenges of our century? What outrageous monsters are waiting for us, just beyond the edge of what we currently understand?